So I have with us right now State Representative Abdullah Hammoud. This is his second term in office, and there are a lot of stuff happening in Lansing.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about this, of course, with us, Judge Sam Salamey. We were going to talk about what's going to happen in Lansing for the next 2 years, especially right now we have a government that's divided. In fact, the executive branches are headed by the female Democrats, while the legislative branches is headed by male Republicans. So, and also to add, to the mix of all of this, the Supreme Court just voted and elected a woman to be the head of the Supreme Court, an excellent, actually a very good judge, Justice Justice McCormick. Justice McCormick, she was just appointed to replace Stephen Markman as the head of the court. So now we have the head of the court, the Supreme Court is a woman, the governor is a woman, the Attorney General is a woman, the Secretary of State is a woman, and the two leaders in the House and the Senate are men.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave to you to name them.
Yeah. Speaker Lee Chatfield, Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey.
All right. And also the Republicans and the women are Democrats. So apparently we have a very divided government. You just took the oath for your second term. So can you tell me a little bit and tell us a little bit about what do you expect to accomplish in this year, in this term, in the 2 year term that you're going to be serving as a state representative?
Yeah, I mean, we've been back now, it's 2 weeks, hopefully committee assignments. What committees I'll be a part of will be announced later this week, so unsure where exactly I will be. Fortunately, though, I've been named the head of policy for the whole Democratic caucus. So all policy packages,
congratulations,
thank you so much, will be coming through our office in coordination with the governor's office. And so we'll be able to work very closely on issues that really matter to residents. As it pertains to what I'll be working on, it's going to be a continuation of what we worked on in the first term. The biggest issue to date right now is auto insurance. That is going to be the #1 thing that my office looks at and tries to find the grand compromise, which they have been trying to find for the last decade.
What is the holdup? I mean, I know that it's not easy in Lansing to pass laws that are against the lobbyists, the strong lobbyists, there that they are protecting the interests of the insurance, the health industries, and all that stuff. So what is the problem of creating a new policy that can give people an affordable, auto insurance?
Yeah, I think the holdup is the pathway in which you take to reach affordable. Some would argue that you need to eliminate unlimited medical benefits to get to affordable. Others argue that if you remove the fraud and cap the health care payments that come from the system, that you can maintain an unlimited benefit, but you've just reduced all the waste, and then you can get to affordable. But you nailed it on the head in the beginning. The biggest lobbying groups, most of the money in Lansing is entrenched in this issue, whether it's the trial attorneys, the physicians or hospitals, whether it's the insurance industry. Everybody has a finger or a hand in this issue, and they don't want things to change because for most, they're comfortable with the way that things are, whether it is the insurance company or whether it is the healthcare.
People are paying through the nose, on their health insurance. I personally pay like over $2,200 for me and my wife.
Yeah.
And also we pay through the nose, for the auto insurance.
Yeah.
So even if you have a very good health insurance, you're not taking a really good break. They give you a break, but it's not as good as it should be on the auto insurance. So people are wondering, when is this going to end? Do you think that there is an end in sight? I mean, I'm asking you this frankly because people would like to know.
Of course.
Especially in Dearborn, especially in the zip code 48126.
Yeah, we're the second highest rate in the state.
Yeah. Right after Detroit, I mean, we come in next in here, and some people, I'm going to talk to the judge about this. Some people are driving without insurance because they just simply cannot afford it. When you're paying $400-500 a month for an insurance, you just graduated from college, or you're just going, from your high school to college. How could you afford it?
Yeah.
And especially us, in the Arab community, we have kids. We have like 3, 4, 5 kids.
Everyone needs a car,
and each one of them wants a car. How do you afford insurance like this?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful for this year, and I think it's because the politics are different. I think it's because we have a Democratic governor. I think it's because the margins within the House and within the Senate are much smaller.
What's the margin right now?
So right now it is 52 Democrats and 58 Republicans in the House.
So six more in the Republican than the Democrat.
Correct. And then in the Senate, it is 22 to 18, I believe.
22 to 18.
Yes. 22 to 16. There's 38 total. 22 to 16. So,
okay.
Yeah.
38.
And so it's the same margin in each.
Yeah.
And so we gained 5 seats. Democrats gained 5 seats in each chamber. Okay. And so I think that will be a signal, because this issue tends to not be along partisan lines. The Oakland County Republicans tend to align themselves with the Democrats, and then some of the Detroit caucus Democrats tend to align themselves with the Republicans. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very divisive issue depending on the politics.
So you don't think that the auto industry, the auto insurance lobbyists are going to stress on this and break it again,
There was just announced this week that there's going to be a special committee specifically on auto insurance, mm-hmm. where all the stakeholders are going to start meeting, both the Senate and the House members, to try to create the grand compromise. I'm hopeful that we do get to a solution. I think a lot of people agree on a lot of components of auto insurance. Again, the question that comes
what do they agree on?
So I think everyone agrees on we need a very tough fraud authority. Mm-hmm. Go after the fraud that's being committed by insurance companies or withholding payments. Go after fraud by those who are falsely claiming that they've been injured or have serious damages. Go after the physicians that are falsely claiming, and go after trial attorneys that are also doing false lawsuits. So we need a fraud authority with real teeth. Yeah. Another thing people agree on is transparency and respect to what's known as the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association. We all pay this unlimited benefit of $190 per vehicle. Yeah. And that account, the MCCA, has over $25 billion in their account, but they're not subject to the Open Meetings Act. We have no idea how they're spending the money or how they create that rate. And so I think there's bipartisan agreement on we should open them up, mm-hmm. And tries to see how did they come up with this formula, how did they come up with that assessment, and what are they doing with the money. So those are some components of that people agree with. Where people will diverge is this idea of selecting less than unlimited medical benefit coverage.
Here is my question to you, and this question came up in several discussions, mm-hmm. that if someone gets in a car accident, yeah. and they go to get an MRI,
yeah.
the rate of the MRI, yeah. The cost of the MRI is like much higher, yeah. 3, 4, 5 times higher than if someone is sick is going to get an
Correct.
MRI. So who's paying for all of this, yeah. at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Are the people who cannot afford the insurance, anymore, because the insurance is so high. And why is that? Who regulates this?
Yeah, so by law, there's no cap on what the hospital can charge, unfortunately. And so, as you said, I can go to the doctor today, need an x-ray, cost me $100. If I get injured on the job and workers' comp is paying my insurance, they'll pay maybe $150, $200. But if you get in a car accident, that physician, that hospital can charge $1,000, $2,000, and the insurance company has to pay it. There's no cap. And so that is one of the biggest debates over instituting an actual, what's known as a fee schedule. How much can a hospital pay on these charges? There's talks.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's talks over maybe in an emergency situation going into the hospital for their first emergency services, there's one fee schedule. And then for all the additional services you got, going back to the physical therapist, your chiropractor, your physician, your follow-up, there's another fee schedule there. So I think that discussion needs to be had, and everybody needs to come to the table, because that is a big portion of one of the main reasons we do have high costs of auto insurance.
I'm going to come back to you to talk mm-hmm. about other issues mm-hmm. on the table for this year and next year
okay.
that you see. But I wanted to turn right now to Judge Sam Salamey and ask him, as a judge for the last 6 years, you've been on the bench and you've been the chief judge. You've seen so many people who have no insurance. Can you tell us a little bit about this issue? This is a real problem.
It is. It is a real problem. And let me start with thanking the Michigan legislature last term. They did away with the driver responsibility fee, which was a huge deal.
Explain.
A lot of people could not renew their driver's licenses because they owed driver's responsibility fee, and they were not able to pay those fees to the state, and therefore they could not renew their licenses. They started driving on suspended licenses because they had no other means of transportation. And it was a vicious cycle. You can never get out of it. And so they did away with that, which was a step in the right direction.
So what they did is they waived it.
They waived it, and there was like about $700 and some odd million that was owed to the state. They did away with it, and they are allowing people to renew their driver's licenses if the cause for the suspension was the driver's responsibility fee.
Yeah.
And then you get to the insurance side of it. And I agree with you. There's so much unfairness, and the inequities are so gross right now between people residing in a certain zip code and people residing in another zip code, even though you may be a driver with an excellent driving record, never had a claim, never had an accident, but you just happen to live in a certain geographic area and you have a zip code, then you are paying 2 or 3 times the insurance that somebody else with probably a worse driving record just because they live in a different area. And this is the nature of the beast right now. And as Representative Hammoud was stating, that they should look into that. And the cap on medical expenses or on the certain medical services that are rendered to people who are injured in an auto accident, I think that would be one of the areas that I think they should put a limit on. Not necessarily put a limit on the medical expenses or to cap it, but at least to put a limit on how much a hospital can charge for MRI, for example, or for an X-ray as a result of an auto accident. Because ultimately, and this is also, there's another twist where you have a coordinated policy where your medical insurance will come in and cover first, and then your auto company will be secondary. And that is also creating also a friction between the health insurance companies and the auto insurance companies. And I think that the coordinated policies can be perhaps reworked differently and restructured differently to alleviate some of the concerns that people have. And I tell you, in the district court, we have hundreds of providers' cases that are filed each day and each week. In fact, between 2017 and 2018, we had 2,000 additional civil cases filed in the Dearborn District Court alone, and 80%
for accidents and without insurance.
And the bulk of those cases are providers' cases. Providers' cases are cases that are filed by someone who delivers or renders medical services to a person injured in an auto accident, and the insurance company has to pay those. And we see MRIs at $3,500 a shot, when it really should not be more than $500 or whatever the cost is. So I think there are a lot of areas where the legislature can look into, and they probably can reform the system to make it affordable. And they should, at one point
the problem
or another,
is always, Judge, the lobbyists who are waiting
I understand.
outside.
There are special interest groups, and there are lobbyists on each side, and these people are pretty much involved in the process, and they can block certain legislations. But our country has always been a multi-party political system in theory and on paper, but practically it's a two-party system. And as Representative Hammoud has referenced, in years past, the two parties have always been able to work together to reach a compromise, and they always look at the best interest of the country. But right now, the administration, as we see with the government shutdown right now, from the head of the pyramid and all the way it trickled down, we can't work anymore. The country is so polarized, and I think the entire political climate is not very conducive for people to work together. And I think this should change before too soon. Otherwise, every single one, whether you are low income, under poverty line, or you're a millionaire, ultimately you're going to suffer, and the whole system is going to suffer.
Well, this is yet to be seen how it's going to affect our state, especially that we have, like I said, the legislative branch is controlled by the Republican to a certain extent, and also the executive branch is controlled by the Democrat. And now this is the first time, that happened in Michigan for a while. Probably since Granholm, was
Probably Blanchard was the last one where.
okay. So now let me ask you quickly, please, if you can tell us what are the other legislations that on the table right now that are hot, and do you think that it will pass this week or maybe in the next 3-4 months from now?
Yeah, the Speaker of the House, the first day of session, announced a bipartisan package with Attorney General Darren Nessel on civil asset forfeiture. So it's a bipartisan package to try to tackle criminal justice reform. So I think that's something that will move forward. There's a bipartisan package introduced surrounding FOIA and transparency and ethics surrounding the Michigan legislature, which currently has a grade F in the country for transparency and ethics. So I think that's something that could move forward. And then auto insurance, as we spoke about, was the #1 issue signaled out of the Senate. And followed up by in the House, as that is the issue that they want to focus on. That will define the entirety of this term, is auto insurance for